Hey everybody, Ralph Havens here, and something happened to me when I was about 5, I think, that I saw something, and it was one of those aha moments. And pretty quickly after that, within a few minutes, I thought, I gotta let this go. If anybody knows what I just thought, it's just weird. I can't really tell people about this. And then something else happened where I had this really weird recurring dream. And I'm going to tell you this because more and more I'm seeing, we see instant miracles in our work, and we see people with some healing that's beyond belief. You just like, that's impossible. And it's when in all sorts of areas, whether it's money stuff or health stuff or sadness leaving or really cool things happening in life for families. We've seen times, many times, when it's an instant miracle, just happened. And so I want to talk about the physics of these instant miracles, and a physics that could be an explanation for why they happen. I mean, we know they happen, and so many of us have heard stuff, somebody prays for somebody and then there's a healing, or something happens in the world where it's like that's beyond hope, and it just some miracle showed up. And so how does the miracles happen? And there's a physics that explains why that could be. And we know that it is. The question is, sometimes people want to know, well, how does it work? How does it work? Even though we don't know how our cell phones work, and that doesn't seem to bother us. We still use them. We don't know how it transmits through the air and hits a satellite and then comes down on somebody else's phone, and then you can talk to them. Nobody that I know knows how that actually works. You have ideas like, oh, it travels on information on light. And it's like, really? That's just a sort of a weak explanation. How does that really work? And but yet we still use cell phones. And so you don't have to know how magic works. You have to know how prayers work, or instant miracles, or matrix energetics, like all those ways of instant healing. It's still kind of cool for your mind to kind of have a sense of it, to kind of wrap yourself around this. I find it useful because if I know it happened and I have a sense of why this can be so powerful and so instantaneous, it kind of puts my mind at ease to like play in this world like this. And more I'm seeing that what I knew as a kid at age 3, 4, 5 is way closer to how it possibly really is. And so I've been diving into this for the past 36 years, even before that, as a kid, trying to figure this out. How do instant healings happen? How did Jesus heal people of blindness and mental possession of demons, and make water out into wine, and multiply the fishes and loaves of bread? And it's like, how did that happen? It's like, did it happen? So I want to talk about that because I think it can help people realize just how magic we really are. And so there's a physics. And so I'll be talking just a little bit about physics. And so hang out with me for a bit. And there's a way you're part of something right now. You're soaking in it. You're soaking in something where you can have a change simply from watching this video. And so would you notice if something were different after watching the video? You might want to test things, or at least pay attention, or not just discount it and go, oh, that was weird. It couldn't have been from watching that really short video, or that crazy video of this guy, but maybe it is. So you might want to notice what's different after watching this video. And let me know what's different. If you like, comment below and let me know. So there's a physics. When I was a kid, I thought, atoms. You heard about atoms, and you got the nucleus and then the little space, and then the electrons floating around it, and you got these atoms, and we're all made up of all these atoms. And then I thought, as a kid, I think I was about 4 or 5. I thought, wow, the Earth and all of these planets and the sun is kind of like a little atom, and then the galaxies, the Milky Way, is kind of like an atom. It's like that same pattern is in the atoms, is in the stars and in the galaxies. And I thought, well, that's weird. And at the time, I just thought, you can't tell people about this. It's like, it's going to just freak him out, and it doesn't make sense. And there's some other explanation about this. It's not the same, Ralph. And but what happened is there's a guy, Nassim Haramein, that I studied with for many years, watching his stuff, reading his stuff, looking into scientific papers, and going deep into this thing. You can research, you can do your own research with Nassim Haramein and look for a paper called the Schwarzschild proton. And the dilemma he had was, when quantum physics was starting, the scientists were, the mathematicians, the physics guys, were doing lots and lots of math. And they were trying to figure out how much energy, how much information, how much mass, how much energy, how much stuff is in the vacuum, in space. So you have the nucleus of the cell with the protons and the neutrons, and then you have the electrons, and then you have a lot of space. Most of it is space. 99% of the thing is space, right? And in that space, they were doing a lot of math to figure out how much, in this cubic centimeter of space, how much energy is in that space. And in the book Gravitation, it's about this thick. It's like the Bible of relative mechanics, of physics, relative mechanics. And in Gravitation, they talk about this time in history when the scientists were trying to figure out how much, they were doing math to figure out how much energy is in space, in this little space. And what they found was something that didn't make sense. They literally called it nasty infinity. And the reason they called it nasty infinity, because it was more of a concept than a number. It wasn't just a big number, it was infinity. And they couldn't keep it there in their equations, because when they put it in their equations, everything just went weird. It's like all things broke. It's like they couldn't mess with it. So they called it nasty infinity. Now what they did next is quite interesting. What they did was they said, let's take infinity out of the equation, and let's just figure out what's the smallest thing we know the universe does. And they called it a Max Planck's constant. And what that means is it's like a photon of light, and the amount of time it takes a photon to cross another photon. So in that space, in that time, that's a Max Planck's constant. Or it's the distance across a photon of light. So it's really tiny, and it's the smallest thing they thought they knew what the universe does, which is kind of funny, because couldn't you split a photon in half and then it's even half as small? I don't know. So they took these Max Planck's constants and they stuck them into a cubic centimeter of space with their math, and to see how many of these Max Planck's constants could they put in here. And they came up with an enormous number, enormous number. And so they put this enormous number inside their math. And now they could talk math, and they had this math, and they called it quantum physics. And they had this whole math around how the subatomic particles work. But there was problems with it, because they needed some more stuff to make up. They had to make up some more numbers, because they were thinking, well, these two protons, like you have a proton and a proton, they're both positively charged, right? And they're in a nucleus and they're spinning around each other. But they thought about it, and it's like, well, common sense, any kid would tell you that if you have two positively charged magnets, you can't just put them together and let them spin around each other. They're going to go doop, and they're going to kind of like equilibrate. They'll kind of like find a distance apart where they don't get pulled apart anymore. And they're there. So how are these two protons stuck to each other, spinning around each other? And what they realized was, well, there has to be this really big force in the universe holding them together. Otherwise, they would pull apart. It has to be really big to hold two magnets, two positively charged protons together. And so what they did was they came up with dark energy, dark matter. And they said, it's like 90% of the universe. It's got to be there, even though we've never seen it, but it's got to be there because there's got to be some force that's holding these things together. So they literally made up another big number, dark matter, dark energy. So they've taken infinity out of the equations. They've made up a really big number to explain this phenomenon of protons stuck together. And then their math sort of made sense. But then gravity didn't make sense, and it still doesn't make sense. So they were left with all these problems and these open loops. So what happened was Nassim Haramein kept thinking, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. And he also thought stuff like, well, the atoms are kind of real similar to solar systems and galaxies. It seems like the same pattern that's in an atom is in everything in nature. You know, even in trees, the way the tree branches out is a certain pattern. You know, the way a snail shell has a certain pattern and a scallop shell has a certain pattern, and the way the galaxies have certain patterns, it's like it's the same pattern. It's the same pattern. Kind of like your DNA. It's the same DNA in your fingernail as it is in your eyelash, as it is in your heart cell. And it's got all the information to make you. Yet there's a bunch of these DNAs. So it's like kind of like that. There's the same pattern. And so so Nassim started doing the math, leaving infinity in the equations and not just making up a big number for what holds these protons together. And he came up with a scientific paper that's in the peer-reviewed journals of physics called the Schwarzschild proton. And what he found was in every single proton, there's infinity. So infinity, not like a big number, but infinity in every proton. Now it's kind of weird because there's a lot of protons in you. There's a lot of protons in these chairs, in these books, in space. There seems to be a lot of protons, and in every dot, there's infinity. And he did the math, and it's like it lined up perfectly so that the same pattern is there at the subatomic level, the little atoms, as it is in us, as it is in the galaxies. Same pattern. There's infinity in every dot of the universe. So it gets a little weird. And we have a reference for that in our world. It's called Wi-Fi. You know, right now, you could probably open up your computer or your cell phone and pull up the same movie I can pull up. Or we could talk to the same person in another part of the world, even though you're there and I'm here and they're there. We could access the same information, and then we could access different information. Kind of like we can access the information via fingernail or an eyelash or a heart cell, all from the same, also all from different places. So it's like the universe appears to be more what's called holographic. Like it's beyond redundant. It's like it's everywhere and there's nowhere it's not. So it's like in every dot of the universe is infinity. And in the space between the atoms, the inner part of the atoms, the protons and neutrons, and the electrons, the space has infinite energy, infinite information. It's kind of like Wi-Fi. And so how is that useful? I have a friend who passed away this year. He had a near-death experience many years before, and he knew stuff. He knew what it was like on the other side. And I said, what was it like when you died? And you were on the other side. And he said the same thing that the little girl said when I had done a lot of Qigong, a way to access this kind of space with a group of kids in Ben's class. And we did a bunch of Qigong and it was awesome. And the little girl said the same thing that my friend who had a near-death experience said when I asked, so what was it like? So when I asked the kids, what was it like? This little girl said this, and this guy who had been dead, and I said, what was it like when you were like dead? and he said, well, I instantly knew everything and I was everything. And I said, okay, it's not useful. That doesn't even compute with my brain. And I said, okay, so when you meditate, like, what do you recommend for people to meditate? And he laughed and he smiled, kind of like one of those smiles when you kind of know something, but you don't know if you can explain it the way somebody would actually understand it. And he smiled and he said, shut up and listen. And it's been said, be still. It's been said, peace, be still, and know that I am God. And you can break that down into be still and know. Be still. Be. Now, how is that useful? So what you might want to do if you want to play with this, even though you haven't taken 36 years and $750,000 of training like I have and made my whole life about trying to figure this out, because it's all about healing for me and for our people. What you can do is, like my friend Don said, shut up and listen. Because you've got the protons and neutrons and you've got the electrons. In that space is the infinite. So in that interval, it becomes less of what you do and more of listening to whatever that is that's always there. It's not ever not there. It's infinite and it's in every dot of that space. Yeah. And so you might notice something right now. And you might, on some level, watch it or notice it or feel it. Follow it if it seems to be something to follow, or sit with it if it seems to be something to sit with. And so much of what I've found more and more and more is that the universe is way more magical than we've been led to believe. And so even though you may not even understand anything about anything, because I sure don't, is, let's say you're here to learn something, to be something, to play. And let's say this is the information. And let's just turn it just so. And then in that space between it, I was talking to Jen, who was talking to somebody, and listening in, and she was talking about somebody that had come to her in a dream, someone that she had known that had passed away. And the person came to her in a dream and she said, "Is God love? Is God love?" And she was asking her all these questions, and she forgot most of what she told her in the dream, this woman who had passed away. And but she did remember a few things. And one of the things she remembered, she said, you know, because they had conversations before she had passed away, like, yeah, about religion and God and all that. And they're like, yeah, God is love. God is love. And so she asked her when she was dead, when she was passed on, she asked her and she said, so is God love? And the woman said, yes, yes, God is love. And it's more than you could ever imagine. So what you might want to do is notice what you notice and let me know what's different, wherever you're watching, on Facebook or YouTube or on my email list. And let me know what you notice. Let me know what's different. And if you want more of this sort of thing, follow me. Get on my email list, and because this is where we play. We play in the world of instant miracles. We play in the world of peace and that unconditional love, and we see results in the regular world. And it's about getting what you want. It's about becoming what you've been created, or what you're here to be. So so if you want to play like that, join me, join us. We have an awesome group. And if you want another one, you can go get another session, a 3-minute one, ralphhavens.com/miracle. So have a great day. Let me know how it goes and what you're noticing.